Am I the asshole for unloading in therapy in front of my younger half siblings? Me, my dad, my dad's wife, his wife's sons, and their 3 kids together are all in family therapy. I am a 17 female. My dad decided family therapy was the way to go because I refused to integrate into the family when I moved here 2 years ago following my mom's death. My dad moved away from me after he and my mom decided to divorce for good. They were all on and off until I was 5, and then he just up and moved away one day. The next time I saw him, which was 5 months later, he was living with his wife, her sons, and a year older and younger than me, respectively, and they thought it would be great, that it would be so easy to make a family out of kids as young as us. But I was bitter. My dad was gone. He used to show up to pick me up from school on Fridays, and he would take me to computer coding for kids, and then he was gone. I saw him a few weeks every year, and he called, but it never sat right with me that he left me for them, or even that he left to escape my mom. He could have lived closer, 1 or 2 hours. Instead, he moved 32 hours away. Dad always knew I resented him, and he would tell me not to. We fought a few times because I didn't make the effort to bond with the boys or then his kids with his wife. And when she tried to get close to me, I would tell her I was there to see my dad and not her. I told him he should move back if he wanted things to get better. Then my mom died unexpectedly. She had struggled with some issues for a while, but I thought things were okay. So he moved me out to him and told me it was our chance to get our relationship back on track. But I held it all in, all the anger and bitterness. They started therapy almost 2 years ago, but I didn't want to be there, not with them. Then last week, it all came out. The therapist told me if I wanted to leave, I should wait outside. Dad told me to sit down and take part because that's what they were all there for, to make our family work. And I snapped. I unloaded every single thing that session, 40 minutes of me saying how much I hated my dad for leaving, how this wasn't my family, that I didn't give 2 shits about his kids, stepkids, or his wife, that it was about him and me, and when he left behind for them, he sealed the fact that I would never want a single thing to do with whatever family he made after leaving me. It was intense. I cried, I raged, and when it was over, I was piled on by my dad, his wife, and her oldest son for saying all that in front of the younger kids. Then my dad told the therapist we weren't going back, and he didn't have a effing clue what he was doing. These last few days, he has been different. All attempts to bond are gone. And now he's just furious that I said all that in front of 3 kids under the age of 10. And his wife goes between mad and hurt that I don't give a crap about her, even though she tried to be a family member to me. So, was I the asshole for unloading everything in therapy in front of my younger half siblings? Am I the asshole for refusing to attend my brother's wedding after he called the cops to my wedding and called my wife a thief? My, male 31, mom is deceased. Her ring was passed down to me as the oldest brother of 3. Neither of my younger brothers seemed interested in following family tradition. So, decided to honor my mother's memory and proposed to my wife with my mother's ring, and she loved it. My brother, Carl, 28, came to me a few days before my wedding saying he was going to propose to his girlfriend and wanted the ring my wife had as her engagement ring. I said no because I already proposed to her with it, but he lashed out saying I can't be reasonable thinking that passing down mom's ring to my wife, who I've only been with for 3 years, when he's known his girlfriend for over 7 years. Plus, mom always considered her as a daughter she never had, so she's more of a family member than my wife is. I told him, yes, mom thought of her as a daughter, but never stated the ring goes to her. Plus, I didn't think he was going to propose to the girlfriend at all, seeing their relationship was on and off for the last few months. We argued about it, and he kept insisting and harassing me till I uninvited him from my wedding. But Carl showed up at my wedding and started calling my wife a thief, repeatedly telling her to give back my mom's ring I helped her steal. He made a scene by calling the police, and it ended up being closed as family dispute. My wedding was ruined, and my wife was devastated. That was it for me. I no longer contacted him for a whole year and only talked to my younger brother, Simon. Fast forward to a couple weeks ago, Simon told me Carl is getting married and wanted me and my wife to come to his wedding. He gave us the invitation. I declined and reminded Simon of what Carl did at my wedding. He said Carl felt awful about what happened and wanted me to come to his wedding as his older brother for support and hoped this would be the start of something good. I told him I wouldn't support someone who called my wife a thief in her own wedding, much less my brother, who was supposed to show support that day, but instead called the cops. I returned the invite, but Dad and Aunt disagreed with me, saying Carl cares about me and wants me to share this important chapter in his life and that it's time to let it go. But I refused. As a result, I'm now considered bitter and cruel since Carl was sincere and even cried besides my wife and I won by keeping the ring, so we lost nothing. I want to add that I feel guilty because before this whole thing took place, Carl and I were very close. But what he did cannot be undone, and he's forever tainted the memory of my wedding. But also, I am aware of how me declining the invitation might look petty. So, am I the asshole for refusing to attend my brother's wedding after he called the cops on my wedding and called my wife a thief? Am I the asshole for calling out my sister for taking and selling my sick husband's possessions in front of the entire family? My 25 female husband, 30 male, was diagnosed with leukemia. He didn't start receiving treatment right after his diagnosis because of how weak his body was. His health has not improved, and it's not looking good so far. He keeps getting worse, and I am constantly worrying about him. In and out of the hospital lately, so my stepmom offered to help and sent my sister, 19, to our apartment to cook and clean. I am away from home most of the time, and my sister would show up for hours every day to take care of the apartment. Recently, I noticed stuff going missing, stuff that belonged to my husband specifically, like his wristwatch and some of his electronic devices, apart from his cell phone. I asked my sister about it, and she claimed that she never saw them. I kept noticing more of my husband's possessions disappear with time, and it drove me nuts as I kept questioning my memory since I lacked sleep. I decided to lock the bedroom as a solution, but I lost the key later. Another thing I noticed is my sister keeps asking about my husband nonstop, not about his health, but about what he doesn't have, which was weird of her. In the past couple of weeks, my husband was readmitted to the hospital, and I was with him the entire time. I went home at 4 p.m. to get my clothes changed, and for some reason, I had a strong feeling to check our indoor cameras. I saw my sister walking in and out of our bedroom, and she had my husband's possessions in her hand. She took his wristwatches, his gaming device, and other possessions with monetary value. I was confused, but then I figured she was taking his stuff and going home with it. I went to my dad's house and confronted her there by showing everyone the video, but she still denied it after I asked if she was selling her sick brother-in-law's possessions. She kept denying it till she finally confessed, saying she needed the money to pay off her debts and to pay her rent, and thought since my husband was so sick, then those possessions weren't necessary. Everyone was shocked, including Dad. I yelled that she was taking advantage of my sick husband to sell his stuff and make money, completely dismissing the fact that if I happen to lose him, then those possessions become priceless to me. She started crying after I asked her in front of everyone if she was relying on him not returning home to notice the stuff was missing, and I called her gross and disgraceful for doing this to him while he's down and struggling. He has cancer, for Christ's sake. Everyone berated her and went off on her. My stepmom heard about it later and called and was angry, saying I should have taken my sister aside and not confront her and accuse her of being a thief in front of the entire family. I argued, asking if she was okay with her taking and selling my husband's possessions, and she said no, but I went about this completely wrong. Now everyone has shunned my sister after I publicly exposed her, knowing she had a reason to do what she did, which is rent, and she's a kid and made a mistake. Besides, she helped, so that should mean something to me. Did I go too far? Was I the asshole for calling out my sister for taking and selling my sick husband's possessions in front of the entire family? Am I the asshole for not wanting to sit in my menstrual blood for 15 minutes? So I, 14 female, have been telling my stepmom and my father all week that my period was coming. I never texted about it, but I have said it numerous times aloud, specifically to my stepmom. My period started this morning, so I asked my dad if he could go to the store for tampons while I take a shower. He tells me no, and that I have to come with him to the store, which is 15 minutes away. Because we have no pads, he tells me to just stuff my underwear with tissues and to come with him to the store. I told him that he could just FaceTime me and I'll tell him which ones to get. He started getting really mad at me and we started yelling at each other, and he told me that this was my fault for not telling him, although I did multiple times, and how he's not going to be driving back and forth. So I tell him how it's disgusting for me to sit in my own menstrual blood for 15 minutes after taking a shower, and he says it's my body, so it's my responsibility. I agreed with him, but I did tell him and my stepmom to please get me some tampons and how it will be starting soon. So, am I the asshole for not wanting to sit in my own menstrual blood for over 15 minutes?